Okay, so thank you again, everybody here and online. Okay, so what we've been working on is Emunah and Bitachon, and I think it's got to be the topic of the century, like especially where we're at in the world, right? And I don't think there's a person, I don't think there's a family, there isn't a space on earth that doesn't need Emunah and Bitachon, and I think that's very much in line with the end of days, right? Like my husband is teaching Jewish history now, so it's really interesting to see, you know, this timeline, and we're at the end of it, and that's called Eretz Yisrael and the coming of Mashiach, right? The modern age, so to speak, that we're in. So Jewish history has really played itself out all over the world, and it always seems to go with that same theme, you know, which is, you know, we have a mission. If we don't do our mission, there is a consequence to not doing our mission. And then, you know, there are things that happen that are not very pleasant. And I think really, I was listening to Y.Y. Jacobson, was very interesting to me. He really said that we are plagued, really, all of us, with trauma. So anyone who is a child of Holocaust survivors like myself, there really is a theme of anxiety that we've inherited from people who survived the Holocaust. So me and my husband are double loaded because both parents on both sides were Holocaust survivors. That gene is not only in me, the gene is even transferred to my children and even to my grandchildren. So there's something called epigenetics. There isn't a part of the world where Jewish people have not lived where we suffered a lot. So like my husband was talking about the Middle Ages, so the entire Middle Ages was like a bloodbath between people, pogroms and everything else, right? And then the Holocaust and so many other things. So when the world shakes, right, I think we shake more than any other nation because we're like, not again, okay, not us. So it was interesting what he said. He said in the end of days, like what he's finding as a rabbi and, you know, counselor and teacher and everything else that he does, that the rate of anxiety has skyrocketed among the whole world, but among the Jewish world, right? Like, so a lot of kids and a lot of people, everybody seems to be suffering from it. He really feels that it's tied into, I thought this was really incredible. He said it's tied into the end of days. That each and every one of us are going to have to really work on our inside fears and anxieties, even those that we inherited, even the fact that, like, you know, you look at Jewish history, it is very hard. Like when my husband's teaching, right, and speaking, like it's not easy to hear, like, and then they were all murdered, and then we were exiled, and then we were murdered again. And then, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not an easy history, no matter who you are, where you are. Your family's from Russia, your family's from Poland, wherever you are in this, right? It's not an easy history, so it makes sense. So what he said is we're going to have to take these anxieties and we're going to have to really work on developing bitachon, because when you have anxiety and you have fears, right, that where is God? Like we have those fears, like where is God? It really blocks you from a relationship. And now for us to, you know, develop this intimate relationship with Hashem, what is the most intimate relationship you have with someone? Like, if you really think about it, what makes the strongest relationship? What feeling do you have towards that person to really be able to open yourself up and to really be close to someone? So I'm opening that up to all the ladies here and all the ladies around the table. Like, what character, what is it? What's the character trait? What's that? Trust. Yeah, it's 100% trust. Because it's funny, you can sometimes love someone, but you might not trust them. You know, you might love a lot of things about somebody, you know, like they're so this and they're so funny and they're so sweet and they're my friend. And I kind of love who they are, but I'm not sure I trust them. It's very, very interesting. So really they'll say, like, in every marriage, in every relationship that you have, even your children to you, they want to know that they can trust you. You know, like, I was one of those mothers that was like a little bit bad at this. Like, I'd say, yeah, we're going to go to the park. And then, sorry, I forgot. Like, I was, you know, like there's some, it was funny. I was once teaching with somebody who said their mother was like that. Like, she'd always be going, you know, kids, we're going to do this. Kids, we're going to do that. We're going to take you this. And everything would get in their way and she'd never go. So this person told me, like, she promised herself when she has her children, if she says something, she's going to do it. Because they're kind of, right, they're looking forward to it and they're trusting. So like, it's an interesting story because, you know, you sometimes think, like, in what merit would this generation merit Mashiach? Like, have you ever thought about it, right? Like, people always say, like, how could we merit Mashiach? Like, there's so many greater generations before us. Like, you look at, you know, the Chafetz Chaim didn't merit Mashiach, Rambam didn't merit Mashiach, like, you know, the Vilna Gaon didn't merit. Somehow, Shmutzi Blutzi us are going to merit Mashiach. Like, what? So for us to be able to trust, you know what I mean? To really trust after everything we've seen and everything we've lived in and all these wonderful anxiety genes that we've inherited, right, that are like, like stopping us from trusting, that's going to be an incredible merit if we can get there. And that's why we're working on this Emunah and Bitachon, right? Because if we can develop this Emunah and Bitachon, right, and even if, like we've said before, like if your genes are so bad that you need medication, kol hakavod, that's great, you take it. I'm not telling you don't, because even with it, you're going to have to work hard. It's not the, you know, this little gift that everybody thinks you pop a pill and, okay, now I have no anxiety. That's baloney. Okay, you know what I mean? You'll still have to work hard. It'll take the edge off, but you'll still have to work hard, right? So now it's kind of like Hashem is telling us, the Jewish people, I know you're all edgy. Okay. I'm going to be honest, you're edgy, you're nervous, so I don't blame you, because on one hand, right, you have this big promise, I'm going to save you, Mashiach is coming, it's all going to be good, there's an end to history. And right now, what are you feeling? Like, if you have your eyes open, you are seeing, like, things are really crumbling out there, right? The stock market's at the lowest, like just this whole gender garbage. They're pointing out in the news today, like the world is falling apart in America, and Washington, you know what Washington is very busy doing right now? Building the third kind of bathroom. Okay, that's what they're busy doing. Yeah, they have them everywhere. Yorkdale. Gender neutral, but this is crazy because, you know, it's just, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Okay, literally crazy. Okay, so literally crazy. So that's what they're putting their money in. That's what we're putting efforts in. Like, meanwhile, the world is falling apart and inflation is like this. And you can't pay for gas. You can't do this. And we're worried about gender bathrooms in the White House. Okay, like, hello, anybody there? Okay, for what, 10 people who might have to go to the bathroom there, who really could go to a normal bathroom? Like, the whole thing is crazy. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. So you, like, this is hard. You know, you're at the end of days. You see everything crumbling before you. It can get very scary. So we're going to have to take our reality and fill ourselves with bitachon. And that's why we're doing this series, to find out different ways and different tools and different ways we're looking at it. So I want to go back to what we always talked about, and it was even testing myself. Okay, so remember, because we're looking at the chovos halabavos principles. So remember that little thing I always say about a note falls from heaven right into your lap. Who remembers what those stood for? Those were 7 basic principles. Amita has a big smile because she's looking it up in her notes. Because otherwise, I can't even remember. Okay, so let's see. Because if we just, like, let's say you have this anxiety thing, fine. And Rabbi Y.Y. Rubenstein is telling us every Jew has it, no matter where they came from. Okay, because after so much history of being persecuted over and over and over and over and again, and knowing anti-Semitism is out there all the time, it's very, very hard to go, okay. Okay, so now we're trying to work our way into this. Okay, so lap note is the secret, just to be carrying in your purse and in your head everywhere you go. So what does L stand for? Hashem sends you this L. What does L stand for? Somebody unmute. Love. Okay, what is, I'm yay to Ella. What kind of love am I talking about?
Unconditional.
Okay, so it's unconditional love. More. Come on, guys, dig into this. Dig in. Come on. How much does Hashem love you?
Hashem loves you the most.
More than even your parents. Okay, so everyone in the world, like Ella's sitting with this is like second generation. Okay, third. Okay, so Ella's sitting here with this beautiful baby, Baruch Hashem, right? Like Baruch Hashem, like she came to the class for 13 years, right? So she grew up in this class. All right, now she has her little baby here. Now, if you would ask Ella, like, who do you love? She would say, I love my baby, right? Like my baby's everything, right? Every one of us, you love your children, the beautiful songs about the Yiddish mama, she'd go into fire and water to save her child. Okay, 100% accurate. So we're saying Hashem loves you more than even your Yiddish mama loves you. Whoa, 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 whoa. So how is it that Hashem would love us even more than our own parents would love us?
Because Hashem is love.
Okay, that's beautiful. That was so beautiful. Okay, so Hashem is love, like he is like such a character trait of all love. And I'll tell you why.
He's our parent.
What? Say that again?
I said he is our parent.
So he's the parent of all the parents, but I tell you even more than that. As a parent, sometimes there's like a block between you and your kids. You can only understand them and know them so much. The Torah tells you the greatest love you can have is when you really understand and you know the other person. Hashem can love us more than anything else because he knows every little corner of us. He understands all of us. He knows where to challenge you and where not to challenge you. He gets you. You know what I mean when somebody says, oh, you got me? That's what we have here. Hashem gets us more than anything else. So he knows how to line up who you are and line up your potential and knows how to encourage you and push you forward and all these kinds of things. So number one, you have to look at your life, big breath. Hashem loves me. Like these are things you're gonna have to say all day, all night. I wish I was kidding. I'm not. Okay, so this is Hashem loves me. That's all. Sometimes you don't feel the world loves you. Sometimes you don't think your husband loves you. Sometimes your kids say, I don't love you. Okay, right? Sometimes your friend may give you that impression. Sometimes your boss gives you that impression. You get a lot of people who can give you the unlovable impression. So what do we have to do? No. Number one, right? The King of all kings, the Father of all fathers, the creator of the entire universe loves me the most. And that's really a very reassuring thought. Okay, so lap. Now, A. What do we have to know when it comes, what? Okay, so appreciate's a good one. It was a good one. But when it comes to Emunah, you need to know if you want Hashem into your life, right? You have to know that he is aware. He's aware of everything that's happening in your life. This is very important because we sometimes don't chap it. Like you're thinking, he doesn't know this, he doesn't know that. Does he realize I have a flat tire? Does he know how much this one is making me worried? Like, what's he doing? Why is my kid a nutball? Like he's not, where is God? Okay, so he is very much aware. And if you want a relationship with all the things that he is so aware that you need help with, what do you have to do? What's the other A?
Ask.
Yes. Okay, Amita, we love you. Okay, so this is like a little bit of a review because I want you to have the framework of your bitachon. Okay, so what does ask mean? What does ask mean? Yeah, okay, so number one, it could mean daven. I want to tell you, I have I'm not going to say, but one of my grandchildren, I wouldn't call them a fetch. That's not a fair word. They never stop asking. Does anybody have a child like that? You could wave your head, like one of these askers, like, why is this? Why is that? Why is this? Why is that? Like, there's this part of me that wants to go, okay, like enough. In fact, this day she said, why is this? And I went, why not? And that was like the best thing I could have ever done because I made her stop and go, yeah. And she came up with her own answer. But okay, so asking can sometimes feel nudgy, but to Hashem, it's the greatest gift. Okay, so it's not like me to my einikel. God has infinite patience. And the more you ask, the more it means you believe that he's the one who can help you. Okay, so for every silly, nitty gritty, crazy little thing, the Torah tells you, ask. And if you really believe, this is the hardest one, because of this history we have, because of this anxiety that we have, we have to believe that he'll answer you. Okay, so they tell a story. I think it was with Rav Chaim Volozhin. Let me just take a look, because I like trying to remember the stories the way they're supposed to be meant. Okay, so you hear this story and it's hard to believe it. Okay, Rav Chaim Volozhin at night, he would have a big learning session with all of his students, and they were studying Emunah and Bitachon. Okay, this was the thing. Like, and you have to understand, these are great rabbis, great students, and they're studying Emunah and Bitachon. You think like they got it already, but it's something that has to be reviewed a million times, because if it is not reviewed a million times, when it comes to the actual situation, in theory, everybody can run around going, I believe, right? I think all of us, everyone in this, around this table, everybody, you know, on the Zoom, we're all like, we all go, yeah, sure, I believe God's in charge. But then, you know what I mean? When the moment comes up and it's trying and hard, it's very hard for us. So Rav Chaim Volozhin was giving this learning session with these students, okay? So in Volozhin at that time, you had to be very wealthy to own a watch. That wasn't like, it's so funny how we take everything for granted. Like you can go to Dollarama and get a watch. Okay, so in those days, right, it was like big expense to own a watch. So he's giving the class and he says to the guys, to the students, anybody have the time? And they go, no, Rabbi, take a look who's around here. Okay, like none of us can afford a watch. So the Rosh Yeshiva, the Rav Chaim Volozhin says, you know what? If you really believed, like this is what he said, if you really believed in Hashem, that he could do anything, right? Like that's a big one. Hashem could do anything, and that Hashem could answer your prayers on a dime. If you really believed it, I'm telling you that we would have a watch in the next 5 minutes. And the students are, what? The rabbi says, I believe Hashem could give me a watch in 5 minutes if he wanted to. So everybody's listening to the rabbi, but they're like, okay, all right, Rabbi, maybe you could believe, but not us. And story, knock at the door. This man runs in, dressed really fancy, with beautiful gold watch. And goes, Rabbi, you won't believe what just happened. My father wanted me to, unfortunately, I was drafted in the Russian army. We thought for sure we're going to be able to bribe our way out. I wouldn't think for 1 second that they were going to get me and that I was going to be drafted. I get there was a big mix-up and somebody else went free who, and I ended up being drafted and I have this gold watch and I don't want to go into the army with the gold watch. If I go in, someone's going to steal it. So I want to give you the watch. So the rabbi says, look, I'm really sorry. I don't want to take your watch because then I have this responsibility to return it. He goes, you know what, Rabbi? I don't have a cup for this. I don't have a head for this. Just take the watch. I would rather you have the watch than anyone else. Okay? Takes a lot of Emunah. But on the other hand, you have to appreciate Rav Chaim Volozhin, his whole life was this, right? And he lived in the Daled Amos, what would I say? In the 4 corners of Torah and mitzvahs. This wasn't a guy who was on the internet, okay? Rav Chaim Volozhin was not watching television, okay? He was not distracted by a million things. Rav Chaim Volozhin wasn't thinking about how he has to upgrade his house or how he needs a this, or he didn't have a car, he didn't have a cell phone. I'm going to be honest, he probably lived a very, what we call pashut life. So his life was walking to the base medrash and coming back. Now, fast forward history to today and now. How many people have faith in God in the world? God is totally under attack. Religion is totally under attack. They, people look at you like, you're under a rock if you believe in God. Like, what kind of nut are you, right? So for you to have Emunah today, right? Do you understand? For you to have Emunah today, what kind of muscle you have, what kind of greatness you have, for you to be able to say, I'm not only fighting a generation of complete heretics, like really, if we thought about it, right? You're in a world that like every Judeo-Christian value is being attacked. Family and marriage and gender and any kind of morality is being attacked today on every front, right? Law and order, there isn't a place, right? Am I right? Yeah, okay, so everything is being attacked. So you're fighting that, and now you're fighting a history in your head, right? That says Mashiach's coming, Mashiach's coming, Mashiach's coming, and instead pogroms are coming and Holocausts are coming, and then the Jews are assimilating. Like now you're watching, 7 out of 10 young Jewish students in a university march out and marry a non-Jew. Like you're watching a spiritual Holocaust and a physical Holocaust and blah, 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 blah. And all this is spinning in our heads. And then people are going, don't worry, just believe you could get a gold watch. And poof, you'll get a gold watch. So if you're just believing anything and you're on this, Zoom thing, and you're trying to work on getting better bitachon, right? And for some people, you've changed your life. You weren't even brought up with this stuff. You had a party out there like many other people, and you said, you know what? This party is empty, and I'm looking for meaning and purpose and connection, and you found it. So guess what? You could bring Mashiach. If you really stop and you put this on a comparison, do you know what I'm trying to say, everybody? Like if you really think about it, you put this on a comparison, do you understand the strength that it takes today to have bitachon, to raise, like I was looking at it, where was I this morning? Oh yeah, I was trying to help okay, it shows you where my head is. Okay, I was trying to help my daughter who's moving, like she had moved out of her house, she had a renovation. And I was just thinking like, so much clothes and this and everything everywhere. And when you have a big family, how much koyach it takes. Like to have the Emunah and the bitachon, not to be selfish, to bring Jewish children into this world. And what does it do? It detracts from your own physical pleasure. It really does. You give your body away, you give your space away, you give all the physical, like it's true. Like think about it, like to raise Jewish children and to give them the tuition, and then you have to send them to camp, and then like it ain't an easy picnic. This is not a picnic. The only reason you are doing it is because you have bitachon in a world that looks at you as if you were an outright idiot. Like it's not like, it's funny. I think like when I was having a big family, we once went to the museum and we took our kids with us. And I am telling you, nobody was looking at any of the museum exhibits. They kept stopping and staring at my family going, is this really your family? Do you really have this many kids? I remember I told my husband, let's just stand still. Pretend, that we're one of those things. Okay, so if people were staring at me now, they're staring at you 20 years later, right? 30 years later, 40 years later, since my kid was a little baby. Do you know what they think of you today? Now you're not worth being something to stare at. Now you're just disgusting. You are like destroying the planet. Do you know how many plates you're using? Okay. Do you know how much carbon print you're making? Like, do you see what I'm trying to say? And yet you have to stand up against all this craziness. Okay. So I'm going to have to ask. You have to ask for a lot of help from Hashem. Okay. So aware and ask. So LAP. What does P stand for? When you're having Emunah and bitachon and you're watching a world fall apart. Hashem is doing this very much on purpose. Like Trudeau is crazy and Biden is crazy. All the people that we just like spend our time going, they're going to fix inflation. They're going to bring the prices down. They're going to do this. They're going to keep world peace. And Hashem shows you, you want to see how much they're worth? They can't say a straight sentence. Right? So why is Hashem doing that? What does P stand for? What's Hashem really trying to scream very loud?
Please help me.
Okay, so please help me was very good, Barb.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. It was very cute. We're talking about Hashem's.
Yeah, no.
But I love it, Barb. So Hashem is all love. He's very aware. You can ask. And P, very important. Come on, guys. We learned this for
Power.
Power. Power, power, power. What is God screaming in the world today? When it comes to power.
I'm the only one who has power.
Hashem is trying to show you everyone else is pretty much powerless. Do you understand? Because the magnitude of everything that is going on is far beyond mortal ability. And it was always far beyond mortal ability. But when it's success, that's what Hashem always says, be very careful of success, because when there's success, then you forget about Hashem and you start taking all the credit. So now you're just in this, we're going to pump our bitachon, we're going to realize, and if I say Hashem has all the power, then what does that mean when it comes to all of this anxiousness and all this stuff that you see that seems really strange, right? Like, kids going off the derech, shidduch crisis, lots of illness. Like, what are we going to do with all that in our head? So if I know Hashem has all the power, then what can I do with it in my head?
Because Hashem has the power to heal us.
Yeah, so right. So I'm going to take away the sense, like this is very important, it's what we said last week, right? I'm going to let go of the sense of control, right? I'm going to have to let go of it, right? Like somebody called me today with something like really hard, like their kid is melting down, right? Somebody's like, that's really hard. That's very hard. And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, so what can we do? What should I do? How can I help her? And then I suddenly realized like, first thing I can help her with is I just say, it's in Hashem's hands. Like we can do some hishtadlus. It's a natural world. We can try, but the success is in God's hand. And if God, we're going to talk about this in this class the most, which is a new thing that we need to think about. If Hashem put you into a situation, what do we know? That there is always a refuah before the makkah. God will never abandon you. So you feel very lost and crazy, you have to stop and take a big breath and say, you know what, God, there is that refuah out there. Okay, now, the refuah doesn't always address exactly what you wanted, okay? So it doesn't always address like everything is going to go away and everything is going to get better. It's the refuah is out there is the strength, the support, and the help for you to be able to get through your challenge. Okay, that's what it means, okay? So I just for a second, I would love to find where I wrote that thing. Let me just see, sorry, because I really wanted you to hear what Jody said. And to me, that was like, it was worth a million. So although things are not the way we want them to be necessarily. So Jody said today, Aviva Devere went, and Jody said, I just want Hashem to know how much I love him. That's what I want right now. I just want Hashem to know how much I love him. Why? Because I know how much he loves me. That's called a refuah before the makkah. Understand what I'm saying? So we sometimes think, oh, and everything's going to be great. Oh, it's going to be like that. Everything is as great as it was meant to be. But the greatness of the great was that Jody could say something like that. All I want is Hashem to know how much I love him because I know he loves me. You know what I'm saying? That to me is the refuah before the makkah. She developed that. You have to think about that, ladies. She developed that by choice, by studying, by implementing it, by reading the thank you prayer for us for almost a year, right? I think it's been a year that she read that thank you prayer for us, starting from healthy, happy, springy, la la la, to someone who wasn't very well, right? So we need to appreciate this. So bitachon and emunah are your refuah before any makkah, before anything would happen, God forbid, to us in any shape or form, from the littlest to the biggest. This is your refuah, but you have to work for that refuah, right? Hashem says, you open the eye of a needle, just a teeny tiny eye of the needle and I'll open a hallway of opportunity for you to develop and learn this. But you're going to have to flex the muscle as it goes around, right? So you have a car problem, you have a this problem, you have a that problem. First thing, Shem loves me, lap note, and loves me, aware, ask, power. It all belongs to him. And this concept, there's a refuah before the makkah. If that refuah is even just mental perspective, that's the world. That's the world in and of itself, right? If you have a healthy perspective to life, you have every gift, because I can give you 1,000 perfect scenarios. You can have the most handsome husband in the most gorgeous house and the biggest, stock portfolio in the world. But if you do not have a healthy perspective, it's worth a zippo, right? Like if it's like, I still want more and I still need more and what's this and what's that and whatever, and it's godless, you're finished, okay?
We all have to be extremely grateful
Yes.
that Jody showed us all this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
for a person who was born religious, who had all that, and it just shows you that in your class and everything that we've learned, that we all need to be seeing this right now.
Yes,
here today.
exactly. Everything that's happening is right now, right here for
Yeah,
all of us.
yeah.
That's part of bitachon too. That's totally part of it. So, okay, so we say Hashem has the power. So that's how you look at it. Okay, that's how it looks at it. So lap note. What's N? No one else has the power. That's huge. Okay, because it's very, very hard for us. Believe it or not, all of us, like, when your washing machine breaks, you're like, please get me an appliance repairman. He's got all the power. Okay? So all you have to do is say, Hashem, I need some help over here. Okay, help me find your appliance repairman that you think can help me. Not that this appliance repairman can help me without you. Okay, do you see what I'm trying to say? Okay, so, and no one else has the power in anything. No one else has the power to heal you, or no shatran has the power to find you the shidduch. No, great financial advisor has the power to give you the money. It was so interesting the way somebody explained it. Rabbi David Ashir said, like, if you're looking at an ant colony, okay, so you're looking at an ant colony. I have, like, if you want one, come to my house. I have a bunch on my driveway. Anybody else have that? Like they're so strong, they lift the driveway. Anyway, so I have an ant colony. So it's an interesting thing. So Rabbi Ashir said, you're looking at the ant colony and you see all these ants, and a lot of them have these like crumbs on their back, and they must think they're the billionaire ants. Okay, and then you see this one little ant, and he Nebuch doesn't even have one little crumb. He said, you could be as big as God. Take a little crumb and drop it for the ant. Okay? He said, that's the amount of effort that it takes Hashem to help us. He is all powerful. Like, we get all nervous. So this also is a lot with the trauma. Okay, there's a lot of trauma that we have, right? That stands in the way of bitachon. And that trauma is really coming. It's a great trick of the Yetzer Hara. And that's why now, like, anxiety and all this stuff is at its highest levels, because we're coming near the end. We really are, just because the clock is ticking. Okay, like sometimes who remembers being really bored in class? Do you guys ever remember being bored in class and you'd be staring at the clock, like, you're going tick tock, and all you want to do is get out of that class. And then finally, guess what? It does really move till the point where there's only 2 minutes, 1 minute, 0 minutes, and you're free. Okay, so before that time, it seems like agony. We're never going to get out of here. But what is happening is that we're getting closer and closer and closer. As we get closer and closer and closer, the Yetzer Hara is upping his game. So the world is going to fight us on bitachon. Our circumstances are going to fight us, and our own heads are going to fight us. Okay, so we need to really hone in on this. Okay, so no one else has any power. What's O? Okay, Amita knows because she put it on her son's bar mitzvah mug.
Only for the good.
Only for the good. Okay, so do you see what's going on here? Like, you watch someone it's very hard, like, to watch. I'm using Jody as an example a lot, because you know what? Every time I use Jody as an example, it's a merit to Jody, and it's just a son sending her, packages to heaven. Because, right, and it's real. It's real. I'm not using, Rebbitzin so-and-so. I'm using a person we live with. Do you know what I mean? And we love. who showed us all this. Okay, so only for the good. Now, how many people would look at this and tell me what's going on is only for the good? So I want people to really think about, how is this only for the good? Only for the good. Only for the good.
Because Hashem knows a bigger picture, has a bigger picture. We don't know the bigger
Okay, Hashem is a much bigger picture that we don't know, right? This is everyone's reality that I have to explain to all of us. We're all on a train ride, right? I love, there's a really beautiful song. We're all on a train ride. And they say each one of us has a different seat. And some people, when you go on the train, they get to go in first class. And some people are going to have these like rickety, in the back. Some people may be in the caboose or whatever they call it. Okay, we're all going to have a different seat. And guess what? We all have to get off at a stop. And nobody knows when. You're all riding the train, they call it. We're all riding the train. So everybody's riding the train. You just want to be able to get off knowing you did what you had to do.
Yeah, it's your mission.
Yes.
Your
Okay,
mission.
beautiful, Barb. So you want to know, when I say it's all for the good, it means everything that happened to you and how you traveled was all for your good. Right? It was all for your good. You used it wisely. It was all for your good. No one ever, you know what I mean? It was never a trick or spite or this or that. Right? And you'll be rewarded. You'll get off that train, you'll get the greatest rewards, all for the good. So it's not always so easy for us to understand. Right? I've seen a lot of different tragedies in people's lives, and it's really, really hard. Very, very hard. But I've been very lucky. I think all of us have been very lucky. When you want to know the refuah before the makkah, right? I always tell you God gave you a cure, and he gave you the help before you went through your challenge. Sometimes you only see it in hindsight. Like, it's very interesting. Like Moshe says to Hashem, I want to see your face. Right? I want to see your face. I want to see face to face right up front. And Hashem says, no one can live and see my face. Why is that? Because if you saw Hashem right up front, what is life? Life is free will choice. I'm being honest. Like, it's nothing else but that. Life is the opportunity of free will choice. If you saw Hashem up face to face, you knew the whole story, then what would happen? You wouldn't have no free will choice. So what does Hashem tell Moshe? You'll be able to see only my back. So what does that mean to all of us? And we should practice this. You should practice it. And if you could journal it, it's even better. Practice this concept. Looking for Hashem in hindsight. In hindsight. Like after you've gone through a bunch of stuff, you look back and you go like, oh, I lost that job. It was the best thing that ever happened. Right? My son broke his shidduch, couldn't ask for anything better. God, thank you. It was the biggest mazel tov, bigger than when we got engaged. Was that when they broke it up? Right? So many of us, if you looked at your life, right, you could see a lot of things that were prepared for you in hindsight. Like when you look back, you go, yeah, I thought that was like the worst moment in my life was the best thing that ever happened. Sometimes you had friends that really weren't the best influences, and then they don't want you anymore as a friend, and you're like broken. Oh my God, nobody wants me as a friend. And then you look back and you go, whoa, was that good? Okay, because this friend ended up talking about everybody and gossiping about this one and only heard it. Anybody who tells you something like, I don't want to be your friend, you go, thank you. Okay, because that is usually God's gift. So these are what I'm trying to say. Okay, so these things that you're looking at in hindsight. Okay, so let's go. Lap note. Okay, so T is a real tough one, but it isn't if you are what I think Barb and Ella said. If you're appreciative, then you're going to like this. T is track record. What is God's track record in your life? Right? Right? If you're really honest, what is God's track record in your life?
Always right in the end of that hard situation.
Yay, Barb. Okay, I love you. And Barb, you're also, like, a lot of us are sisters of the school of hard knocks. It's right? Like, when people tell me, yeah, the track record's great because I have everything I ever wanted, like, that's nice. And you should appreciate it, because some people who have like really amazing lives and still don't appreciate it. But those people who've traveled the school of hard knocks and turn around and tell me, yeah, you know what? God's really got a good track record. I know that's authentic. That's very, very authentic. So I really appreciate that. Okay.
And sometimes it's not because things worked out the way you wanted them to, but because you grew from the challenge.
Okay, beautiful. Yay for Karen, right? So yay for Karen's sermon, right? She just says such a beautiful thing. So she said, like, sometimes it's not because it worked out for you, but because you grew from that challenge. And that's what I'm going to say when we look at Jody, like, it's not an average person, okay? You know, it didn't maybe work out exactly the way we all wanted it to work out. That's okay. That's okay, because it worked out for Jody in a way that's beyond. And Emir Hashem for everyone else involved. You know? Well, so we have to appreciate this. We have to appreciate this, really. If you think about it, it's really something to appreciate. Okay, so everybody's good with this? Okay, so that was track record and then E. And this is also one that's very hard for us. I think very hard for us to believe. And that's what I also want to really emphasize. We're very into like, well, we didn't earn it. Like, we have to merit it. Don't we have to be the best? Don't we have to be a tzaddikus to get all these good things? So the Torah tells you what you have to be is a mami. Isn't that crazy? What you have to be is a believer. That's what you have to be more than anything else, is a believer. Number one, you have to believe. Then you will get to see these things, right? Then you will get this connection. Then you will get this insight. Okay, so this is what we have to focus in on. So if you're looking at someone, it's very cute. When you want to talk to Hashem, you know how we were all saying we should pray to Hashem? I think every one of us should pick a name. I don't know, like if you had a great relationship with your father and you called him daddy, that's what you have to say. When you have to call out to Hashem, you could say daddy. It's a very nice thing. Okay, daddy, some people Abba, some people Papa. Everybody's got their name for Hashem. And it's very, very nice to use a very endearing term. You know, like Hashem is very endearing, but sometimes to some people, when you really want to focus in on that like visual, emotional connection, right? For those of you who had like a very warm father, right? And if you don't have a very warm father, you had it, whatever it is, that go back to Hashem, okay? Whatever, I'm just calling it out there. You want to make this very personal. Sometimes that's a good way to say, you know, Abba, I need your help. Abba, I need your help. Daddy, I need your help. Papa, I need your help. Please, I need your help. I really, really want to believe. So where is the focus of our belief coming from, especially when we talk about this concept of earning? So the Torah tells you, it's very interesting. What's the lead up to starting the Amida? Okay, Amida, like this, you know, not the Amita, the Amida. So the Amida is the Shmona Esrei, right? Is that special, like the height of heights of all of your prayer. It's considered like you go into the Kodesh Kedoshim, the Holy of Holies. Like you've been working yourself up from being an animal to becoming an angel. That's why when you pray the Amida, you keep your legs together. You're not moving around anymore. Now you're like a heavenly spiritual being, like the angels. They're like together on their feet. They're not holechs, they're not movers. Okay, so that's what we are. We get to the Amida. So you're moved from Shmona Esrei and all the prayers in between till you got to the Amida. So the Torah tells you, then you're walking into the Amida with a certain understanding before you start asking, you know, give me this and give me that and give me this and give me that. What is the understanding? If you look, you'll see the concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim, being redeemed from Egypt, is mentioned six times before you start your Amida. So what's the concept of being taken out of Egypt do for you? Like, what is that, like, how does that resonate? What's the message there? What's it make you feel? What's the point of this? Okay, wow. Okay, I love that answer. Okay, so Ella had an amazing answer. She said Hashem can take you out of anything. True, 100% true, right? Like he turns the whole world around and blah, 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 and they're slaves and now they're free, and nobody was ever freed from being a slave in history before that moment in time. Okay, so definitely. What else?
Because
He loves us unconditionally.
Okay, he loves us unconditionally. Where does the unconditionally part come? Where do you see it? Because the Jews were in the worst situation. They were in the 49th level of impurity. They were so assimilated, so lost, so this. When they got to the Kriyas Yamsuf, when they got to the splitting of the sea, so to speak, complained to Hashem and said, why should I split for these people? Okay, they are no different than the Egyptians. They're idol worshipers, they're lost. Like, why would I do anything for them? Who are they that they deserve such a miraculous miracle? And plus all the 10 plagues and everything else that was so miraculous. So what's it trying to teach you? What's it trying to teach you? This concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim. I'm about to ask God, I want you to give me this and this and this and this and this and this and this. But I've spent, yay. Okay, you got it. Okay, so Karen got it. She said, what is it? That even if I don't deserve it, that's what you mean, Amita, when you say he loves you unconditionally, even if I don't deserve it, in the merit of my belief, that was the only thing the Jews really gave God. Right? And think about it. Only 20% of the Jews had it and gave it. 80% of them were lost. 80% of them said, you know what? We can be rich now in Egypt, right? During those 10 makos, the Jews went from being the slaves to the people who had the water and the stuff that everybody needed. So if you needed it, you needed to go to the Jews and you needed to pay for it. And now suddenly the Jews are on a different, level, right? And the Jews said a very good answer. We could be religious in Egypt. What do we have to be religious in Israel for? Like, we can do it right here. We don't need to, like, this is enough, okay? This is great, right? So we need to appreciate this. So before you come up to the Amida, you're saying, I really believe in Hashem. You could redeem us no matter how far we are. So redeem us nationally and redeem us individually. Okay, so this is where you're coming from. So we need to know, all of us, no matter how bad the world looks, no matter how bad everything looks, you have the refuah before the makkah. Right? I was thinking about it today. You know what that refuah is? God's promise. God's promise to Abraham that we will always be here, that we will come back, that Mashiach will come, that things will turn out right. That's our promise, right? So we need to hold into it, believe into it, walk with it, all right? And you need to really say to Hashem, you're the one who's going to take care of my problems, right? Abba, Daddy, Papa, okay, right up there, you're the one who's taking care of my problems, okay? Okay. And that takes a little bit of surrender and lots of humility. Lots and lots of humility. If you could practice it, we need to practice letting go, right? And realizing that there is that, what's it called? There is that refuah before the makkah. Okay, so sometimes it's very hard to understand. So the Chavetz Chaim said, it's almost like, you wonder, why is this happening? And why is that happening? Why is this happening? So he compared it to a visitor comes to shul, all right? So, when there's a gabbai in the shul and people have to learn from the Torah, so they call different people, we're on the women's section, so we don't really get it because they're not going to call us up. They're never going, Galalei Abbas, to come up. But you see, Chaim Yankel gets called, and this one gets called, and that one gets called. Anybody ever wonder, how do they know who to pick? Right? You wonder, you really do, how do they know to pick this guy? In our shul for Kohen and Levi, it's very easy. There's only one. So our shul, there's no fights. There's only one Kohen. Maybe there's two, but there's not a lot. But let's say Yisrael, who's going to come up? Who's going to come up? And in some shuls, you go to Hamilton, there's 20 Kohanim. It's unbelievable. Okay, so how do they know which one to pick? So this guy comes into shul and he's watching this one go up, this one goes up, and he goes over to the gabbai. He says, you know what, this looks so stupid. Why are you just picking people randomly? I don't understand. Pick them in order wherever they're sitting. You're in seat 1, you go up first. Seat 2 goes up second. Seat 3, he didn't understand what was the whole thing, right? So the gabbai said, you just walked into shul. You don't understand the big picture here. Some of these people were called up last week. You may not know that. Some of the people some people had a yurtzeit, some people had a simcha, whatever it is. There's a million big reasons. And that's what we have to look at with Hashem. Okay? wherever we are, whatever's happening, there's a million reasons. He's the Gabbai of the world, okay? And he knows who has to be picked when, right? He knows who has to come up and who has to wait for their turn. So it's just important for us, I think, to understand that as well, okay? So there's a beautiful story in the Talmud that talks about this Tana, okay, one of these great rabbis, who was a chavrusa with Eliyahu Navi. Okay, not bad. Okay, so he was a chavrusa with Eliyahu Navi, and his name. I just want to get it right. Hold on one second. Okay, wait. Let me see. It was Yeshua ben Levi. Okay, so he would learn with Chavrusa with Eliyahu Navi. This is the last story, but it's worth listening to. So he said to Eliyahu Navi, "I'm just curious. When you're not learning with me, what else do you do?" Okay. So, I think it's a fair question. No. So what was he like? He's really asking him, like, what do you do? Like, what's your shlichus from Hashem? So he said, I do a lot of different missions that God sends me to do. He said, really, could I accompany you on these missions? So Eliyahu Navi said, only under one condition. Yes. How did you know? You heard the story? Or yeah, okay, good. I'm also thought I know Stella's very smart. Okay, so good, you'll help me because I couldn't remember the third story. Okay, so he says, on one condition, you're not allowed to ask any questions. Okay, why? I'm just curious, like, why would Eliyahu Navi tell him that? You can't ask any questions. You can come on the mission, but you can't ask me any questions.
Because the instructions come directly from Hashem. He
Okay,
does
instructions come
what
directly
wants him
from
to do.
Hashem, right?
And you may see things don't make sense.
Yeah, you may see things that aren't going to make sense, right? And if you ask questions, it's going to distract the mission. Everything is going to get turned around. So what was he trying to build in this great rabbi? What was he trying to build? He's trying to build his bitachon, saying there's certain times where you will not be able to ask questions, and that's okay. That's okay. So Eliyahu Navi takes him. He says, we have a mission. We have to go to this hut. Okay, so it was like a hut. It was like a beggars. They looked like there were people who had no money who would live in this hut. And they dressed up as beggars themselves. So it looks like people are very poor are going to visit people who also seem to be very poor. So they knock at the door. It's this lovely, old, kind couple, like rickety place. Things are broken, no nice clothes, barely anything to eat. And they knock at the door and they say, excuse me, is it at all possible if we could come and stay by you? Sure, come in. Please, you can have a little drink. What was it? Milk. I had a cow. That is one cow. And this cow gave them milk, and that cow was their only source of income, and really probably their only source of really food and sustenance, right? So they didn't even drink it themselves. They took water and they gave to this Eliyahu Navi and to this rabbi a drink. And they gave them, they didn't have anything like just straw for mattress. So they said, you know what, you sleep on the straw and we'll sleep on the floor. So like the most incredible people, do you know what I mean? Like Eliyahu Navi and this Rabbi Yeshua, they're looking at them and like, wow, like what incredible Rabbi Yeshua is thinking, these are tzaddikim. How many people would be willing to give strangers all of this when they have nothing themselves? In the middle of the night, he sees Eliyahu Navi gets up and he goes to the barn. This Rabbi Yeshua is wondering, like, what's Eliyahu Navi doing? So he goes, follows Eliyahu Navi to the barn, and he takes a knife and he kills the cow. And then he goes back. And in the morning, when the woman wakes up, she goes to the barn, she starts screaming hysterically, oh my gosh, we lost everything that we have. This was our only sustenance. And this Rabbi Yeshua is like pulling his hair out. Like, what did Eliyahu Navi just do? What did he do? Why would he? But he can't ask any questions. We're still on the mission. So he leaves totally dumbfounded. Before they go, Eliyahu Navi turns to them and he says, Nebuch, I'm so sorry that this happened. I can only wish you the best. I can only give you a bracha for good health. I can give you a bracha. He looks around, he says, I see you don't have any children. I can give you a blessing that you should have children. Sei gesund, Hashem will take care of you. And he leaves. He's very curious what's going on. Okay, comes to the next mission. You have to be dressed as beggars again. Okay, dressed as beggars again. Come to a beautiful palace of a home, and they can hear music. Something's going on in that house. And Eliyahu Navi says to Rabbi Yeshua, we have to go and ask for money. We have to go and ask for some food. Rabbi Yeshua says, okay, fine. This is a big, beautiful house. Like, he just went to a hut, so he's imagining he's going to come to this big, beautiful house. They're going to give him a steak. Like, that's fine. Okay, no problem. Okay, so he goes up to the big house. He knocks at the door. And the butler opens the door and he looks at them. He goes, sorry, we don't give. So they go, no, you have to get the master of the house. Like, we're starving. We really need help. Master of the house is going to blow your head off. Like, it is not a good idea. He's having an engagement party for his daughter. At the best of times, he will not see people who want charity. And they're no, we have to go. Please. And they like kind of push their way in. And the person who owns the home comes running, like, what's the disturbance? What's going on? Like, this is a party. What's happening? And he sees these two beggars and he starts screaming at them, the chutzpah you have, and who do you think you are? And blah, blah, blah. And he's going crazy, right? And then the two beggars are like, but please, we're starving. We're freezing. Please help us. So he goes, you know what I'm going to do for you? You could sleep in my barn. Okay. And his barn is like PU, smelly, disgusting, from animals and with straw and garbage. And Eliyahu Navi takes this Rabbi Yeshua and they're sleeping in the barn. And in the nighttime, Rabbi Yeshua sees Eliyahu Navi with hammer and nails. He's fixing the guy's barn. He's fixing the wall. He's making it like, and Rabbi Yeshua's going, what is going on here? Like, he doesn't understand a thing. The next morning, Eliyahu Navi says, okay, it's time for us to leave. And Rabbi Yeshua says, but you just fixed his barn. I don't understand. Okay, so they leave, and now it comes time to understand the mission. Once the missions are over, he's allowed to ask the questions. So Rabbi Eliyahu Navi says, look, when the first house that we went to that had that poor couple, I knew the Malach HaMavis was coming. The angel of death was coming to kill that woman. So when we came, we gave them an opportunity to do a mitzvah. It saved her life. But the Malach HaMavis still wanted something. I wasn't going to let go of this mission. So I gave him the cow. And with the bracha that I gave him, in merit of the chesed that they did, they were able to have children. And just as we were leaving, you didn't notice, a little calf wandered out of the forest that they were going to find. That wasn't able, they would never be able to return, and it would be theirs. Okay. This man with the fancy mansion, he actually was a horrible person. He was not charitable. He was nothing. He was also big fake. He really didn't have money, and he was going down. There was a treasure hiding in his barn that he never knew about. Had I not fixed that wall, he would have found the treasure. He didn't merit to find the treasure. Like, you see what I'm saying? So the world is a crazy place. And sometimes you're looking at this and you're looking at that, and you understand what is going on. So what's Bitachon and Emunah telling you? Hold on tight. Hold on tight. Hold on tight. Understand that the picture is much bigger, but understand that you can rely. Whatever's happening in your life is orchestrated for your best. You need to tap into that. Lots of incredible understanding, right? And faith and Emunah. So this week's thing, if we had to put it together, we'd have to say, whatever Hashem is doing, he's doing for the best. And there is a refuah out there. You may feel lost, open your eyes and look around, right? And you will find that refuah that you need to help you get through with what you're getting through. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful good night. Mwah. I love you all. It's 9:36, so we went over 6 minutes. And I'm going to stop the recording. And tomorrow, Mirz Hashem is Tehillim, right? Yes. Okay, good. All right. Okay, thank you. So much. I hope you
Thank you,
enjoy
Gail.
it. It's great if you come in person or from afar, whichever way you want. Okay.